Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com, as well as YouTube. Please like and subscribe. I have one announcement. Please notify your Attorney General in your state regarding solar panels made by Sonova Generac Systems. If you're having any difficulty with this company, fill out the complaint form in your state with the Attorney General. Now, I have a return guest on. I'm happy to have Riti Chikkerur on. She's Executive Director of Our Children Matter Most. She's accompanied here today by Attorney Kelly March. She's with Our Children Matter Most in Colorado. And we're going to talk about current case issues in Colorado and how did Our Children Matter Most happen? How did it evolve?
Okay. Thank you, Marianne, for that brief and succinct, introduction. Well, it's been a couple of years since I've been on this, and since then, it's just I've changed the name of my organization. As you know, I started my organization under the name of Pro Se Court Support Services in 2019, end of 2018, 2019, as a result of the due process violations and what I faced at the hands of a few corrupt few, not the entire system. A corrupt few can give the whole bunch a bad name, And as a result of that, I was able to successfully collaborate. Our organization collaborates with NAACP of Austin. They were able to successfully advocate for me, get all of my all of my criminal charges dismissed. As you know, I took part in the contest with the GPS ankle monitor representing my country, India, in the Miss World pageant. So, and I got some resolution. I was somewhat reunited with my children, but I would say it's only partial restorative justice. And since then, we rebranded when we started our collaboration with NAACP in late 2022 to Our Children Matter Most. As you know, we did some peace walks, the 150-mile walk from Brownwood, Texas to the Texas State Capitol. We were accompanied by many parents. We got connected with quite a few legislators, the Texas State Capitol, and we also helped with some with some legislation work. And that's when we realized that in order to make any kind of change, we need to reestablish ourselves, and not as a nonprofit, but as a benefit corporation. So currently, Our Children Matter Most is still a Texas domestic nonprofit. And we just entered the Colorado market in October. And we are in the process of restructuring ourselves as a benefit corp, because a B Corp is partially for-profit and partially nonprofit. It also allows us to engage in political activities, lobbying, engaging in legislative reform. And these are all the things that we're already preparing and undertaking, in the coming few years. So we're like, why can't doing good be profitable? Why should reforming the family court system be a 1 or 2 person unstructured way of doing things? So we got pretty structured. I took my LSAT, I passed. I'm in the process of going to law school myself.
Well, congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. So that's just a brief history of the timeline of how we incorporated, how we changed our structure, and we are extremely solution-based. Yes, conversation and dialogue is important. It is important to understand what families are going through, but at the same time, our approach is very, very, very different from a typical advocacy or a typical law firm or legal aid. We're kind of like a hybrid. And so we have to kind of dot our I's and cross our T's and make sure we don't engage in any ethical violations in any state. And the way we present ourselves is we provide solutions not only to the parents, but also to the legal community, because the legal community is so burdened. Trauma levels are so high. So our team has come up, and we're going to soon be launching, with your assistance and collaboration as well, is TILA-LABS, Trauma Informed Legal Advocacy workshops, where you're going to get real solutions and referrals and a one-stop holistic trauma-informed view on your situation. And we will try our best to resolve it. So that was a mouthful, but
That was a mouth. So how did you come up with TILA-LABS? When did that happen? Like, did it take you?
I don't know. I think that's a question for Kelly, because I think we were sitting in the office, and I don't know whether it was over a glass of wine or when we were I'm not sure actually.
Yeah, it's my name's Kelly March, and I'm an attorney here in Colorado. I've been an attorney since 2010, and primarily my background has been in regulatory compliance and financial crimes type world. And last year, after a difficult personal time, I really wanted to find work that just had more meaning and that was using my legal skills, because my work at these large financial institutions was becoming pretty law adjacent and getting outside of my wheelhouse.
Mhm.
And so I did a brief stint in family law. So I'm going to make no bones about it. I'm pretty new to this world. And then I happened to meet Riti by happenstance last year, and it's kind of just like planets aligned. I mean, I really believe in her organization, and I was kind of a little bit skeptical. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, and maybe that's the legal brain talking, like you need to know based on facts, but I've really seen over the past short time how corrupt and how just kind of backwards some situations can get within a family situation. And in particular, I definitely don't want to make any grand declarations about the system as a whole. I think that most jurists take great pride in what they do. They have integrity. They do it because they care. But there is this kind of niche client that I'm seeing rising to the top, that is typically someone that would enlist the help of Our Children Matter Most. And it's just that unique combination of not really, like, just such complexity in the legal system and not really knowing how to turn and just feeling like overwhelmed by your situation. And it's been interesting for me coming in, because when we were first talking, I said, I don't understand how these situations need another lawyer. Like, it's very costly. These people already have a family attorney. They have sometimes a criminal attorney. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Right.
But I'm beginning to see that I think there is somewhat of a gap or something that is commonly occurring, where people need someone that talks to everybody. And I guess that's what advocacy is in some way, where like I liken it to like a hospital setting or something, where there's the patient, and then they have the insurance, and they have the specialist and the person seeing them, and the nurse and the family, and sometimes it just gets to be crazy.
Right. And it needs a holistic care.
Right.
Exactly. Like I don't provide any legal advice because I'm not an attorney, but what I can do is I can provide like emotional support, and I can provide guidance and assistance to attorneys under their supervision, which is also great experience for me because I can log that for my future, law school. And I'm learning a lot too. So what I initially do is I have an initial trust factor, like you do in the podcasting world with this family law stuff, is that most people know my story. The unconstitutional 17-year protective order, the 6 arrests, being shackled and taken to court, and public buildings, like literally like I am somebody on the ICE list. This happened in 2018, but it took me considerable amount of door knocking to, on multiple occasions to multiple organizations. And finally, I found NAACP to advocate for me. And that's when I realized the importance of advocacy. Now, NAACP did not assign or refer my case to Legal Defense Fund yet. But there are some statewide issues that we have been discussing with NAACP, like protective orders. We need to reform how protective orders are being applied nationwide. That is the firsthand data that I'm receiving, is that this is such a quasi-criminal civil matter. And nothing I'm saying here is legal advice, by the way. It's not legal opinion. It's just my personal understanding, because I've been through that. And we discussed that, and we said, and so we discussed with our in-house attorney here in Colorado, and we're about to bring somebody on board in Texas as well, and hopefully other states. And so we talk to our client from a trauma-informed viewpoint. And unless you've been in that person's shoes, I don't think you can truly advocate for them. So I'm kind of like a liaison between legal minds, between the attorneys, between the court, between the therapist, and my own personal story. So I can only speak from a layman's perspective, but in order to translate that into some actionable items, whether we have to file an enforcement or we need to file a lawsuit, or whether it's just a quick 1-hour consultation, we get to a solution really quickly, really, really quickly.
That's awesome.
And that is the difference that sets us apart from other advocacies. We've been told we're an interesting hybrid. So we're, getting advice from the legal community and from legal aid clinics, and we're and judges too, and figuring out how do we position ourselves, So
Well, to go full circle back to the question, which was TILA-LABS.
Yes.
It was born out of this discussion that we're having, and we're still really working out the organization, the framework, and how it's really going to operate. But it's kind of envisioned to be a sort of an advocacy area where you can go and be heard, and you can maybe get some limited scope legal advice, because obviously I don't have an attorney-client relationship with these people. We're not representing them in the duration of whatever their case is, but sort of akin to like a legal hotline that we have on the news in Colorado on like Wednesday nights. You can call in and get some limited scope direction for where you want to go. But at the same time, we would like for people with similar situations to have sort of a platform to really discuss, bounce ideas off each other, learn from others' experiences. And maybe it starts a grassroots community with those people. But it's adjacent to the legal world. So it's kind of maybe like a therapy group or like an AA meeting type thing, but incorporating some legal guidance.
Because we have attorneys, either on staff or people we contract with, who will look at the case. And so it's not just lay people discussing, what's happening with this case, but from time to time, we actually take on cases where if it sets a larger precedent, like a statewide issue, or there's a civil rights issue, something that affects a large group of people, and it just makes more financial sense. I'm a business person, so I look at the numbers.
Yeah.
It just made more financial sense for us to, identify attorneys who align with our philosophy, identify, court officials who align with our philosophy. And surprising, there are a lot of people who appreciate the relief that we bring and the solution that we bring. And so cases get resolved as a result of this versus self-represented litigants, guilty as charged, trying to save a few bucks in 2018 and 2019, just, wasting my time and not being heard by the court, unfortunately, by an unethical judge or two. Now, if I had a fair judge, they would have treated me how I was supposed to be treated. But unfortunately for me, I had a very, very unethical judge. And that's why down the line, I had to get attorneys anyway to resolve my issue. So the conversation of TILA-LABS is, we're already kind of informally doing this on certain cases. Like in Texas, specifically, our attorney, we haven't done the paperwork yet, but we are bringing this attorney on board who's got incredible experience. She worked for a DA for 30 years, and she's such a breath of fresh air. As you know, I've spoken to several attorneys. I may be in the hundreds and tried to, I network a lot, but this particular attorney really cares. And she's looking at every client from a trauma-informed perspective. So as a result of these conversations, we're going to be rolling out TILA-LABS, which is going to be an online legal aid hybrid kind of workshop. But once we have all of the written documents and all our, waivers and all of that done, I'll be happy to share that with you if you'd like to share it with you viewers. So for example, in Texas, we're addressing 3 issues: protective order reform, vexatious litigant statute that is misapplied. That is a first, in my opinion, in my layman's terms, that is a First Amendment plus a 14th Amendment violation, where if a self-represented, I'm speaking from my own experience, is that if a self-represented person is being effective in a court of law, my experience in Texas has been that they will just make up whatever they want. Chapter 11 of the Texas Civil Practice Remedies Code, which I had to study like a bedtime story, to understand what it was, and declare someone vexatious litigant, which basically means, shh, silence, go away. You have no constitutional right to speak, and you have no constitutional right to parent. So we created a list, and we did a little study, and we gathered sufficient evidence for a class action lawsuit in Texas. We discussed that with NAACP, and class action lawsuit is a lot of work. So yes. Far and few in between attorneys, can donate their time to do that. So, but if any Texas attorneys want to donate their time, pro bono work, and work alongside NAACP and our organization, we would love your involvement. So please, contact us. So protective order reform, vexatious litigant statute, the misapplication, and one more thing I forgot. Oh yeah, the trauma-informed, the TILA-LABS. I think everything needs to be trauma-informed. And like Kelly said, we want to have a holistic approach. So we even have physical locations now, both in Austin and in Colorado, where when someone comes in, there's a physical place where you come in and we can address the client's issues, whether it's mental health services. We have licensed mental health service professionals. We provide that, and on an affordable rate. It would cost you 3 to 5 times the amount. It would cost you, like you would have to have an attorney that would cost you, retainer of $5,000. I'm just going to throw some numbers out here as a business person, right? So let's say an average case, not crazy complicated, but somebody comes in and says, I don't know what to do. Court has ordered me all this therapy, la, 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 la. It's all. Then there's bankruptcy involved. There's probate stuff involved. There's family law. And oh, oops, by the way, there's also a violation of protective order. So there's a criminal defense aspect also. So we're like, okay, come down to homeostasis. Let's go grounding. Have a cup of tea, have a cup of tea, breathe. Let's get some basic information. We start off with a questionnaire, and the number one thing that we do is a psychologist prepared questionnaire
Mhm.
We check the trauma level of the
Mhm.
individual. Once we have the trauma level and figure out, okay, this person needs a lot of hand holding, or or they can do limited scope, they can speak for themselves, but they only need limited scope. So based on that, we match them with attorneys, whether they are in-house or within our network.
Mhm.
And because we have these existing relationships from a therapist, licensed therapist, to, let's say, a small aspect criminal defense, let's say defending an enforcement motion, another aspect of there's a civil rights issue, and another aspect, of course, family law, which is the huge crux of the whole thing, and then someone like me who can't give legal advice, but at least kind of give them like the confidence and say, look, I've been through this. Don't give up.
Mhm.
Just keep going. They need that. Many times I act like a coach, like a life coach. And that whole package. And of course, the big part is also crisis and PR and media management. So we pick certain cases that would set a larger precedent. And if we take on those cases, we will put our media and PR behind that.
Mhm. I think that needs to be done. I think this is
Absolutely.
excellent.
Absolutely. And so something like that, what do you think it would cost with different services? Just if you were to,
A
like,
thousand. I don't.
monthly retainer for each service.
Mm, probably, I'm guessing around 10,000 or over 10,000 a month,
Exactly. Over 10, over 12,000,
right?
whatever it could be, whether it's a criminal defense attorney, a family law attorney, a psychologist, all of that. And on top of that, it's overwhelming to go and knock on 50 doors, but you just come in and it's like a spa. It's like, we are going to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Because,
definitely not for the garden variety family case.
right.
Like hearing this, even me, and I'm involved in this, I'm like, wow, this is a lot. Like this is a lot. And so it's not going to be a service that the average person will probably know about or need, for example.
Yeah.
It's going to, I think it's going to cater to just a more one-off situation where people really need kind of like a swift talking to sometimes. I mean, I've noticed a lot with pro se litigants that some of them have a victim mentality, which is fair, but some of them aren't doing basic things that the court has asked them to do, like a parenting class or, you know, whatever. And they don't even know where to start. And so I've heard Riti talk to some of these people and just be like, come on, man, like you can start making some headway and get some traction today.
Get
Like
therapy.
it's not all lost. It's not all just done and blown up. And so I think that's really encouraging for people who are just so overwhelmed by the emotional part of it
Mm-hmm.
and then the legal part of it. And maybe they can't afford an attorney for like representation through the whole case and they just are lost. So
Yeah.
Let me just do my quick business owner pitch in, is that we talked about what it could cost, anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000.
Mhm.
But when you come in, mental health, legal representation, whether it's civil, criminal, um, holistic support, PR and media, we we also we don't have someone yet, but we are interested in health and nutrition, providing people a guided health and nutrition, because let me tell you, if you are not taking care of your adrenal glands, you're you're going to get shot because of the stress. PTSD now has been described that it is actually measurable. As a nurse, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
Just on scans, brain scans, you can see that it is an actual measurable and identifiable wound.
Mm-hmm.
So trauma is going to be there, but we're going to address all of that: health, emotional health, spiritual health, legal health, and we're not going to break their bank. it will cost anywhere like a standard, without knowing the details of the case, we would probably cost a flat fee of like $5,000 a month. That's 3 to 4 times less than.
Right. Yeah, people don't realize when they go into family court what it's really going to cost.
Yes. They start off with a $2,500 retainer, like I did. I only speak from personal experience. And next thing you know, it's 30, 40, 50.
Right.
My ex-husband spent $250,000, one of them, and the other one spent close to $200,000 trying to separate my children from me, and ended up being unsuccessful anyway. The reason that they stopped spending is because I stopped being their enemy. Not every parent understands that. Not every parent understands that there are certain unsavory characters in the legal field that actually benefit from escalating the trauma.
Oh, definitely.
We come in there, we bang tables,
Yeah.
we push back, we fight. We're not, we push back. Our attorneys talk to the opposing attorneys, we push back, and at the end of the day, the court respects us because the court respects that we have shortened the timeline of a case, a really high conflict custody case, which would probably take 12 to 18 months. We've shortened that timeline to 8 to 10 months, or maybe even shorter. Right. So it's a very valuable service that we intend to provide.
Because parents need this to be over in a decent time period. Like you mentioned, the health issues, the cortisol levels too. Because I remember I went down to 113 pounds and I looked horrible.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And most importantly, Marianne, our name, our children matter most. People, courts are listening to attorneys and guardian ad litems and CLRs and do all kinds of professionals in an entire village. But what about the children? The children hide their traumas. You know this as a nurse. They hide their traumas, and those traumas do not manifest until much, much, much later in life. So if that happens, one judge creates traumatized family. 300, 400, like that judge for the horrible but kids for cash judge, 4,000 cases. 4,000 cases. Can you imagine an entire wave of traumatized children? That's not good for our family unit. That's not good for our community. That's not good for humanity as a whole.
And it makes me question if the judges care about the ACEs score. A lot of people, for people that don't know, it's Adverse Childhood Experience Score. And it's about like 14 questions or so. You can even Google it and pull it up. I scored high. My kids have told me they've scored high. And what it explains basically is that it does, it can bring on illnesses and shorten your life. So.
And not to mention that I think we can stipulate to the fact that a divorce, a family breakdown, dissolution is traumatic, even in the best of circumstances. And I mean, it impacts you. It writes on who you are for the rest of your life. And then if it's very contentious and ugly and, it's really tragic.
And the good news is that in this new political environment, we are independent. Like my personal political views are independent, because when a kid walks in, or when we see a case, we don't look at, is your child Republican or Democrat? We don't do that. Yeah. That's asinine. So I had the good fortune of meeting with Robert Kennedy when he was running for president. But thank God he's secretary, and he is also very active in the children's health defense fund, I forget what his organization's name is. Yeah, Children's Health Defense. That's it. That's the name of the organization. And I am very, very hopeful that at some point we may be able to at least present some kind of a case study or something like that to his offices, and show how a defunct system and improper application of law and also corruption and some just downright bad people, let's be realistic,
Yeah.
There are really psycho people sitting behind the judge who do not have any business being a judge or business being a guardian ad litem. And some children are being trafficked through the legal system. I mean, this is not a joke. Everybody knows about it. We want to eventually present our findings in the proper format to Mr. Kennedy's office, because this is a huge, issue. Health is not just physical health; it's also mental health. Mental health is a huge aspect of overall health for children.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Some people say with kids, their grades will drop if they're going through the stress of either whatever's happening, CPS, foster care or family court. But sometimes their grades shoot up and they become straight A students. And that's another aspect of the stress.
Yeah, you're right. I'd like Kelly to answer how she transmutes her pain and stress. Everybody has pains and stress. And the way I do that is I have CPTSD. I don't think it's ever going to go away. It'll always be managed. I transmute mine by fighting the right way. I don't fly, I don't freeze, and I don't fly away from the problem. That's just who I am, but I cannot expect everybody to be that way, So transmuting our stress and our pain and our anger and our fears and our abandonment and just all of this bundle of just this dark nightmare that parents go through, like I still feel I can now put myself outside of myself, and I can literally sometimes visualize myself being in that state, knowing not what to do, drinking wine directly from the bottle, completely naked in my home, not knowing what to do without my children, and curled up in a ball and crying and literally praying to all the 3 million Indian gods and Jesus and Buddha and everybody, And my prayers were answered, thank God. But it shouldn't have to be that hard. And that is why I believe, from the spiritual aspect of things, God put me, or the universe put me, and put you, and put Kelly, put all these wonderful people that I'm working with in this way, so that it's going to be a new earth. It's going to be a new awakening, and we have to do our part.
Right. Because a lot of parents that I've talked to will say, well, why would God let that happen? Why is God letting this happen? I try to answer that as best as I can, talking to these parents. I'm not a counselor, but, you know, uh, this system makes parents lose their faith in whatever faith they had.
Pain is a great teacher if you will allow it. If you don't, I've seen a lot of parents, unfortunately, do things to themselves and do things to their children. And that is, we should not, as human beings, we should not let that happen to each other. So yeah.
Right. And also, you've got a case in Colorado that is fascinating that you're dealing with as well.
I will let Kelly talk about the legal aspects of those things without, revealing names.
Right.
And I'll talk about it from a layman's perspective of what my understanding is with the case, without revealing the next legal strategy because this is an active case.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much to go into depth. It's just a very complicated case. There's a lot of dimensions to it. There's the family dissolution, there's criminal, there's bankruptcy, and I'm trying to facilitate the children having a larger network with their family and friends. And just a lot of stuff has fallen through the cracks with this case, where things have happened after certain orders have come down, and it's just an uphill battle to try to unwind some of that. It's very difficult.
May I go into some my layman's understanding after
Yeah.
speaking, I'm working under Kelly. She's supervising me, and from what I see, the main issues of this case, if I were to lay it out, are that there is I will have no problem dropping names because corrupt people need to be blown up.
Right.
Their names need to be blown up. I'm not them. They don't need to be blown up. The
Yeah.
names. Let's just
Broadcasted. Their names need to
yeah,
be
let's make sure
broadcasted.
nobody construes that as a threat of
Yeah.
bodily injury and harm. That's not what I meant. But I think their name should be highlighted because you never know how you're going to help somebody else.
Right.
So in this Colorado case, it is there is a lot of racial bias.
Mhm.
The father is incarcerated. The mother, there was CP, child pornography, discovered on mom's phone, and it's like, oh, there's no repercussions from the sheriff's department here in Colorado in one county.
Mhm.
And we also found evidence of sexual misconduct. Oh, that's not a problem.
Mhm.
So when we spoke to the children's legal representative in the case, her name is Bonnie Salzman. Remember that name in Colorado, Bonnie Salzman. She's an attorney and she's prolific. She's been in this business in Colorado for about 30 years. And the feedback that I have gotten personally, and we have gotten from several advocate groups that we've been speaking with, I don't think this woman has a soul.
Mm.
I don't believe so. Okay. Because she does not believe the CP is a problem. She does not believe that the sexual misconduct is a problem. Mom's father engaged in child abuse and neglect against mom, and the kids apparently needed to be hospitalized. I don't know the exact details, so I may be misquoting, but I mean, he was arrested for child abuse charges in a different county
Mhm.
in Colorado. And the children's legal representative doesn't have any issue with the children being around this kind of an abusive person. And
Mhm.
then most important, truancy. The children are completely truant. And she's blatantly lied to the court in verbally and in writing. When we're looking, I mean, the number one tool, sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but the number one tool that I have seen, doesn't matter in which state, when there's a guardian ad litem or a children's legal representative or a CFI or whoever, attorney ad litem, anybody in charge of the children's affairs appointed by the court is unethical and illegal. Their
Mhm.
number one weapon of choice is psychological warfare. Psychological warfare on lay people.
Mhm.
So they just say whatever they want to say, even if the order clearly says, ask for the court directive, you have to organize visits with parents and grandparents and family. This CLR will actually, or an unethical CLR will actually say, oh, it's not my responsibility. With due respect, I don't have to do that. So, so
Oh.
where's the recourse? If a court-appointed official refuses to follow court orders, then how is a layperson, like, I understand because I have attorneys around me, and
Mhm.
then I can just ask them and I can clarify, and I'm like, what is this? But if as a layperson, where am I going to go if the person appointed for the best interest of the children is actually engaging in the worst situation for the children?
Mhm.
And do you know why? Because she has convinced the mom to sell the children's residence, which this is my suspicion,
Yeah, this is your theory.
it is my suspicion and it is my allegation. It is not my theory. It is my suspicion and allegation that she's very highly, highly interested in having the children's residence sold, and the mom's attorney has tied his legal fees $350,000, which is,
Wow.
you know,
It's
legal
high.
is really $350,000 of legal fees is unwarranted, apparently, according to some specialists that we spoke to.
Mhm.
And some attorneys were like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and to sell the home, and that I'm not afraid to say, hey, this is my suspicion. There's no other motivation for this person other than money. It's all about the money. It's
Yep.
all about the dum dum dee dee dum dum.
Yep. Yep.
You know? So, but she speaks in a very professional tone. She writes everything double spacing. So, and as an attorney who's been in Colorado for about 30 years, it took us a little while. So if I went on Google reviews, you can see there are 18 plus horrible reviews about this person. There are another 22 horrible reviews about this person on Avo that says this person should be jailed. This person is unethical. She is the devil. I mean, how can so many people be wrong about one professional? And she's got over 40, 50 cases. She's very prolific. And based on some of our investigation, which is I haven't seen that 100%. The allegation is that she also runs a child adoption agency on the side. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I have to run it by the Office of Child Representative and other people that I defer to for this kind of stuff. But I have to ask them, like, is that not a conflict of interest? Like, are you not like,
oh, Riti, so she's getting kickbacks like those judges for the Kids for Cash.
I'm not certain.
Allegedly. I can't say that these are my words.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more skeptical, but
absolutely.
But I can say objectively that it's not in the activities ongoing in this situation are not in the children's best interest. That's objectively verifiable. Whether it's burnout, negligence, I don't know.
Yeah. See, this is why it's good to have an attorney, because I don't have any proof. Like, I don't know. It is my allegation. It is my suspicion that she's motivated by money, but I don't have any clear way of knowing. And that is why it's important to have me as a layperson. Here's a demonstration, right? Me as a layperson, when I say things like that, I have our, OCMM attorneys like, well, it could be because of negligence. It could be because of this thing, but let's get back to the legal aspect. And let's find out that it doesn't matter what the reason is. What really matters is that she's not upholding the best interest of the children. We don't care if her butt itches, okay? And she doesn't feel like doing something. We don't care. But the fact that she's not doing it as per court order, that is what we care about. And that angle, that simple little switch is I'm able to talk to Kelly, like turn over and ask her. But a regular person is not able to do that unless they can pick up the phone, call somebody like us. And if it's a legal question, I'll say, I'll have Kelly call you back, or I'll email you back, or I'll have the lady, I don't want to mention her name yet till she signs the contract for Texas, but I don't have attorney X from Texas call you back on that legal question. And like that, our, legal aspect, legalese is clarified. That's very important. Saves a lot of time, saves a lot of resources.
But we are still ironing out the scope and the ethical rules and all that stuff, because you don't want to violate those.
Right.
You don't want to give legal advice where you don't have an attorney-client relationship or privilege, or stuff can be kind of the weeds, and it's important that we really flush that out so that we're not, doing anything that distracts from the intention and the importance of the work.
Correct. I mean, I've been threatened, as you know, unauthorized practice of law, multiple states, when I've never.
I think you have more threats coming after today.
No, I don't care. I mean, I keep a good documentation. In fact, somebody filed the most recent complaint, and it's just a question of answering it. And that is why I'm extremely careful, but if someone wants to go ahead and, make false allegations, I will fight them like a mother.
Right.
I will fight really, really hard, and I have the support of, advocacy organizations, and I have mentors within the legal community. I'm not, I've been doing this for a long time.
Mhm.
And I would not be foolish enough to draft documents or engage in any unauthorized practice of law. But people will make those allegations nevertheless, because to intimidate us and to get OCMM off the case, that's their number one trick, is let's get OCMM off the case. That's a compliment. Thank you. If you are not pissing off some people, that means you're not doing your work right. So I'm very glad to piss off a lot of people, because twice the amount of people actually appreciate, and my number of supporters for the organization and for me personally are much larger in number than a handful of people who are unethical and who are just gonna, threaten me with all kinds of things.
Another thing, the false allegations, these people that make false allegations, and even if you have it in a transcript that they have been making false allegations, there's no penalty. There's no disciplinary
Yeah.
action for a parent making a false allegation on a relative or another parent, or,
Yeah.
how do we stop the false allegations?
I think right at the door. I
Yeah.
think we need to cut off the incentive, because when a false allegation is made, like in my case, you
Mind.
can, I'm going to let Kelly answer from the legal standpoint, but from a layperson's, when a false allegation is made, I end up spending a lot of money, time, and energy and resources to defend those allegations. And that gives the opposing attorney, and when the opposing side, the father or the mother, the co-parent on the opposite side is just like not the smartest on the block, or narcissistic, or some mental health, some personality disorder, control issues, coercive control, they just want to weaponize the children and use that against you. So no matter how reasonable you are, like I was, no
Yep,
matter
same.
how reasonable I am, that other side will keep filing motion after enforcement, because they need that. They need that $5,000 a day court hearing to pay for their whatever,
Yeah.
whatever those unethical attorneys are using it for. And the good news is that we've been speaking to a lot of family law attorneys, both in Texas and in Colorado.
Mhm.
And even, appellate attorneys do, because we do some appeal work as well. Um, um, they say that we're tired. We want a solution. And I do a quick business pitch and say, in a year, if just say if you can handle like, only 5 to 6 cases a year, and all that headache, and this is the X amount that you can make. Imagine if you can actually go through like our in-house truth consequences reconciliation, like a mediation process, which is very holistic and trauma informed. Imagine if you can make that yearly revenue quarterly with less headache
Right.
and with less threats. And then they're like, you're right, because a lot of attorneys all family law attorneys are extremely stressed out themselves. They need trauma assistance themselves. So, many times, even if the attorney is coming from a good place, they don't have the energy to deal and sit and talk to somebody and say, I understand your childhood. No, they want to keep their cases going. So it's a numbers game for them. So if we come in and offer that solution right at the get-go, it's like, I've gotten thanks from the current attorneys in this case. It's like, thank you, Riti. I have to call, like, for example, this family law attorney was like, I have to call a list of, I need to find a list of domestic violence therapists. This is cold calling. You don't need a law degree to do that. You don't need to be a paralegal. I said, let me do that. Are you sure? Yeah, let me do that. I said, and I called like 30 people, found out who provides therapy in this particular scenario. And I gave them 3 references, and she's like, oh, thank you so much. And even though it may, in the short term, reduce an attorney's billable hours that one point in that one case, over the long run, they will solve more cases, and it'll be resolved in a mediation. We want to push a parallel I wouldn't say a parallel system to the already existing family court system. The already existing family court system, Marianne, in my opinion, and in your experience as well, is that it's defunct. It's too messed up to fix. We cannot fix the system anymore. It's gone. It's kaput. So we kind of have to act like, these Doge brothers.
Yeah.
The 19-year-olds, the group of 100, whatever, 90, we come in and we like shut this shit down. We can't do that. But instead, we can create a parallel system that can be a catch-all and start resolving these issues. We did get an interesting call from Dr. Phil's show, his marketing manager, his Merit Street media, wanting to know a little bit about our process and wondering if we can send them some information. So we're in the process of doing a little demo reel and sending it to them. So our process is not going to be like Dr. Phil open for entertainment value process. It's because there has to be confidentiality and things like that. But when it's false allegations and it's just he said, she said, and there really isn't anything there, and that situation, like in my situation, can be resolved with reunification, you don't need to spend $250,000 in one case. Because guess what happened to the 3 attorneys who did what they did to me? I can only speak about my case due to confidentiality issues with other clients. The 2 attorneys who made those crazy false allegations that my children were part of the protective order when they were never a part of the protective order. The husband and wife team got divorced. I believe they were reprimanded. One already had a sanctions from a different court, and she ended up being transferred to New York State, some legal lab or something like that. So she kind of like had to restart. And one of the other attorneys, Ryan Duguay, who's prolific for unconstitutional Texas protective orders, sorry to say this, but ended up dead. I mean, I don't know if your viewer audience is a fan of dark humor, but I prayed really hard for that for karma to show. So I just joke that karma showed him the lesson that he needed to learn.
Well, my story with the judge, right? I told you that.
No, please remind me briefly.
Okay. Okay, so bear in mind the dates. March 2nd, 2015. The judge took the kids away. I also, I think he retaliated because I wanted him to recuse himself because he was BFFs with the opposing attorney. And so I said, okay, I can't do anything with this fellow. All he does is scream at you, he belittles you. And I had 2 attorneys. So I said, God, you deal with him. I can't do a thing with this guy. You deal with him. So on March 2nd, 2017, my friend calls me and said, hey, did you watch the news? And I said, no. She said, your judge is dead. Isn't that ironic? On the same day he took my kids away.
Judge dead.
Yeah.
How did he pass away?
What's that?
How did he pass?
Pancreatitis.
Good Lord.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Judge Robert Sambrook, God is dealing with him.
Wow.
Yes.
I believe it. I believe it. I mean, whether it's God or if you hurt 30, 40 plus families in Texas, who knows? Some parents are not going to be like, reasonable. Some parents, it's a fact, they will just go and stalk judges, go to their homes. We don't do that kind of stuff. We are here to make a larger, like a systematic reform. And that requires conversation. That requires awareness. And that requires education, not just the parents, but also the legal community. We're creating something new here. And I mean, we've already created it and we've had success. So now we're ready to, share that in a much more formal way.
Oh, this is great. Yeah. So, you're working hard on that Colorado case. I know you can't really talk much about it, but you've been very busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Use something like the time blocking method. And I know sometimes I overwhelm Kelly. But,
Yeah.
but we working hard, but we also work smart because our team is growing. And that's very important. And when you're doing the right thing, there's leverage from the universe. There's leverage from God.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that happen that are miraculous, that no matter how much we as normal people, intellectual people, heads trying to do all these things, no matter how much you push in that direction, doesn't work. But then suddenly you walk into a coffee shop and boom,
Mm-hmm.
that person that you needed. It's just, there are too many of those incidents. So that's why I know for certain that's my signpost that
Mm-hmm.
that I'm doing the right thing. I watched a podcast just 2 nights ago, James O'Keefe in New York City, and he was talking to the Socrates Society in New York. And one of the things that he was telling this audience of really, really good audience, he was saying that, what was that he was saying? Did you watch that, Kelly?
No.
I sent you the link, but it was quite long. He said, in order to do this kind of work, in order to be a truth teller,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to risk your life.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, done that multiple times, which is why I'm unafraid.
Mm-hmm.
I am totally unafraid because I have been almost trafficked. I have been almost suicided.
Mm-hmm.
I have been thrown in jail multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I have had all kinds. I've had people who are from the state capitol just walk up to me when I'm walking my dogs in my neighborhood and tell me to my face, threaten me and say, you need to leave town and we will get you a safe house. And I say, absolutely not. I'll stay right here and I will deal with the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
That's how my father raised me,
Mm-hmm.
So that really hit home for me. And I was like, now, do I take unnecessary risks? No.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in order to be a truth teller, you have to be able to risk your life.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, when you do this kind of work, and if you're going to be successful at it, you're going to have to become spiritual really, really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed is that our team that's being put together is literally being handed to our organization in a silver platter. And every single one of us is not only intellectual in our, in my area, it's business and it's, layman support, but she's very logical, but she's also very spiritual. She's also very wise. Same thing with Susie, who we're trying to bring on board in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that our entire company is very holistic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I believe that we already are successful and we want to open it up. We love volunteers, pro bono attorneys, please, donations,
Mm-hmm.
collaborations,
Yeah.
anything, because at the end of the day, we are living true to our mission. And our mission is to protect, promote, and preserve the rights of our children for the benefit of humanity. It might sound like a lofty goal, but it's actually, we're doing it and we're saving children's lives at the cost and risk of our own reputation sometimes and threats, but no, I don't get death threats any longer, but I get the occasional crazy stalker. I have a stalker now who's following me from state to state, and the local district attorney will not give me a protective order. They're retaliating. The local sheriff's office in Bastrop will not execute on those criminal charges. But what you gonna do? Just have to keep moving on.
Right. Now, let me ask you both, what is the best piece of advice you would give a parent going through this?
Kelly?
Well, I think an obvious one, to quote the great Dr. Phil, is the children pick up the tab for adult bad behavior. They just do. So that's really important. I don't have children personally. I would like to someday, but I think we can all agree that that's pretty true. And then also just you got to start moving in a direction. Like if you're just drowning and you're custody case or whatever you're dealing with, just do the next right thing. Read the paperwork carefully, reach out for questions. There's a lot of different organizations that you can reach out to, including the clerk of the different courts. And just make small moves because it's incremental, but don't get overwhelmed by the whole situation and just try to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. And it's hard to think positive when you're going through something so stressful. But try.
Yeah.
Any advice from you, Riti?
Oh, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Your best piece of advice for a parent going through the system.
Well, if you're going through hell, then don't stop.
Yeah.
Then don't frickin' stop. Even if it means you have to just get up and print your case file that day and do nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Don't frickin' stop. Go push one more step, one step in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is debilitating. It is physically debilitating.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is.
And knock on doors. And if you feel you need, of course, help, contact us.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't need legal advice. So we don't need, but we can provide you just emotional support and
Mm-hmm.
check in on you, and say, hey, have you attended therapy today?
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing? Having that sense of support. And thank God I've had one person or the other randomly supporting me when I have been completely down, couldn't move my body, in a couch, just it was just difficult. Didn't brush my hair for days. This was in 2017, 2018. I thought at one point, to be honest, I was so delirious and lost so much weight, and I wasn't eating and I was drinking a lot, straight from the bottle, no energy to even go and pick up a glass. I thought I was dead at one point. I literally felt my body separate itself from spirit. I think I was dead. And then you know who woke me up? A stinky pile of dog shit in front of me.
Wow.
I have two giant dogs, Luke and Lex, who've done 150-mile, they're Shanti walkers. They are so intelligent. I was gone. I was so delirious. I was drunk. I was, God knows, no food. I hadn't eaten for days. And I was smelling like an animal, I think. This was, but nobody knew behind closed doors in this beautiful house what I was going through. I didn't know it was day or night. I didn't, and I was naked. I didn't even want to wear clothes. I was that lazy. But wine I could drink. And then I was in this delirious state, and I felt like something, something you're in deep sleep and you're almost falling off the cliff kind of a feeling. I was going off. I was voluntarily dying. I know some Buddhist monks can do that. So I believe it was I was leaving my body, my spirit was leaving my body because of the extreme pain of not seeing my children for so many years. And then something happened and I felt a nudge, and my dog's face is this close. He's like, huskies don't bark. So he's just like in my face. And then I'm like, what's going on? Delirious. Big, huge piles of stinky shit all over my bedroom.
No.
I was like, oh my God. So dog shit is what helped me. That was my lowest point, I think. And after that, I never allowed my dogs to poop in my bedroom again.
Oh, definitely.
Sometimes you have to go that low, but even if you have to go through shit, just get up and go through it.
And keep going. Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I know mediation's part of the divorce process in Colorado, it's required, but take it seriously. And I'm sure that that's redundant because if someone has a lawyer, they're going to emphasize that. Because if things go to a trial, a permanent orders hearing, you're leaving a lot of your life up to the discretion of a judge who doesn't really know. Even if they take 2 full days of a hearing, which is long, they
That's
don't
great.
know your life. They don't know it. And so think about how you're going to feel on the back end of that with an outcome that you didn't like. It was worse than what you thought was a bad deal with your ex in mediation, and the regret that you'd have. So sometimes, like you asked a question earlier about how to get false allegations to be done, or like to stop them. I don't think that's possible. I think that divorce and family matters are so personal that sometimes, whether it's false or not, it's true to the person saying it. It's their truth, and maybe it's their experience. But that's just part of it. And so you think sometimes to see the forest from the trees and be able to think, well, we once loved each other. We had kids. Like, can can I find some kind of, I don't know, grace for the other person or whatnot to design your own life on the back end of the family falling apart. Don't leave it up to a judge.
That's
Well
kind of,
said.
that's great advice, Kelly.
Yes.
I mean, it's obvious advice, but
No, I agree with you. If you can stay out of there, stay out of there.
absolutely.
And I'm so glad I had you both back on. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Nope.
No.
Well, how can people reach you? Our children matter the most. How can they reach you?
Um, Written form is the best way to reach us because, we've had to change our phone numbers a few times.
Yeah.
So, phone calls are specifically only for clients that we engage and we work with. So if you just go to our website, www.ourchildrenmattermost.org, there's a form, contact us form online. You can do that, or you can always send Marianne Petrie from Slam the Gavel an email and
And I'll get it to you.
exactly.
No worries. Thank you so much. Hey, don't jump off. Okay, Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, and other platforms even I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you so much, Rita Chikkerur and attorney Kelly March from Our Children Matter Most in Colorado. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you for what you do,
Yeah,
Marianne.
thank you for having us and for all of your work.
And all of your insight. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.